podcast, episode 11. Yes, I know it has been a while since your girl been on here doing her podcast episode, but for the past couple of weeks, maybe a month, you know, I found a few topics that I wanted to talk about. And this might be a very short podcast episode, but still it needs to be said. And so welcome back and thank you for listening to episode 11. The topic of discussion today is the first one is why why was Sami Zayn's only 9 day champ why was Sami only championship was for nine days as world champion? The second one is should Rhea Ripley drop her title due to injury? The third one is why are people not more upset about the Street Profit short title reign? And the last one is why does current wrestling fans have a problem with Tony Khan or AEW in general? Okay, so let's get right into it. We all know that whether it was Saudi or WWE or a little bit of both, were the reason why Sami Zayn was champion for King of the Ring. It was not only to top off of what they had going on with AEW to say, hey, we could make Sami Zayn a champion as well. But I think it was just like, okay, Saudi is here. Sami, based on his culture and his religion, let's put the title on him. But I feel like they had the discussion a while back, maybe they didn't, before they even put it on the title, that he was going to hold it for a certain amount of days and then drop it. Or this could also be the out of the blue of where he thought he was going to hold it for at least a couple of weeks to a month and then drop it off to somebody else. Uh, I'm not a Sami fan. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a Sami fan. There are moments where I kind of liked him, and there are moments I didn't like him. Honestly, it's only upsetting me in certain ways, or to an extent, is because he had a short title reign for only 9 days. Now I can see if they let him be champion for like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. You know what I mean? But I think it's more irritation when it came to not only they made him 9 days, but they also asked this man for a pay cut. Now, some WWE fans might be more upset with this one because these are also the same fans who was feeling like Darby Allin is not a true champion or felt like he's not championship material based on how he look and how he presents himself. Quote unquote not championship material, which I think is bullshit. I feel like every time somebody don't look big and bulky, blonde hair, blue eye, or whatever the case might be, that they don't fit the quote unquote what a champion should look like. You know what I mean? And so it goes back from Daniel Bryan and before him Jeff Hardy. And I feel like that's a slap in the face to as for a professional wrestler where you're working so hard, clawing, scratching to climb the ladder to get to the part where you want to be champion. And the minute somebody comes champion, whether it's the Daniel Bryan, the Jeff Hardys, the Darby Allins, the Sami Zayns, or whoever else in a picture, the first thing that the IWC does, or people does in general, I don't know if it's a habit or whatever it is to plan your downfall of who's going to take it off you next. And it's kind of like that would piss me off, not only as a fan, but as a wrestler, if I was a wrestler, that I worked so hard for you people to already plant my downfall before giving me a time to celebrate or you guys celebrate with me. That's a slap in the face. Because instead of you planning my downfall, why did I not get like, oh, you deserved it? You know what I mean? Let him or her win this or have this moment for 2 weeks or whatever the case might be to a month. It don't necessarily have to be a Roman Reigns 4 year gap, but at least give me 2 or 3 months to all to celebrate, to carry it, to not only help push other superstars uh up or give them that shine as well, but let's also put on a banging ass match to prove that I can't be this champion, that I'm not just a title holder in order for the next person to get it. And I feel like with Sami Zayn, he was more of he complaining too much, and this was more like a here nigga damn. You complain too much. You clawed your way into WrestleMania by facing Trick Williams for the United States champion, which a lot of fans feel like he didn't deserve it because he stole it from Melo. And then you cried, it's your way up to the world champion. And this was more like WWE's way of, okay, they know they're going to Saudi. This is a here nigga damn, you're champion, but don't get too comfortable because we're going to get after you that next following Monday. That's what that was. Because you only had it for 9 days, and that's barely a fucking week. And yeah, that's barely a fucking week, to be honest. Um, and I feel like that's a slap to him in the face because you might not say that, well, Sammy's you're not your favorite wrestler or he don't deserve it. But honestly, I feel like besides his whiny ass characters, he's one of the good in ring wrestlers that they have besides, Seth and Chad Gable and a few other people. I feel like it's a slap in his face considering that he worked so hard to get to where he's at in order for him to have a short title reign. I mean, hell, Jey Uso title reign was longer than that. Darby Allin title reign was longer than that. But I digress. I mean, at this point, that was a that was a that was like a royal that was equivalent to a Royal Rumble Titus moment where or the Santino moment where he basically just slid in, called himself trying to fight, but got eliminated too quick, and he wasn't ready. I digress. No. Next one. Should Rhea Ripley drop her title due to injury? Honestly, I feel like yes, because you don't know how long she's going to be out. What's the extent to her injury? I feel like by her being one of the top females in that company, they let her hold on to it, which I feel like is a slap in the face to other people who has their eye on that title and wants to be champion. And then again, WWE is known for having champions on the fucking sideline of not doing shit, which is crazy. But I'm like, it's ironic because back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, where Naomi had a shoulder injury, some type of injury, and she was forced to drop her title due to the injury, and yet Rhea suffered an injury, and yet she still holds on to her title. And I'm like, I get that it's two different regimes. One was run by Vince, the other one is TKO. But at the end of the day, it's still WWE in general. And I feel like that's a fucking slap in the face. But I digress. Um, I feel like she should. Because if they're not sure if she's gonna come back, why not just have her to drop the title? They do like either a gauntlet match or a uh what you call that? I lose my train of thought. Sorry. Uh, kind of like the tournament. Do like a tournament. You know what I mean? Whoever wins or whatever the case may be, the last two could duke it out for the women's world champion or the women's WWE champion. So therefore, you crown your new champion. So that way, when Maria comes back, if she's healthy down the line, then you have her face whoever in order to get her title back. Even though technically I don't want her to be champion again, but still, I digress. That's how they should have did it. Because if she's if she already out for like what a month or two. So my thing is, why not just take it off of her? But no. Then again, I don't expect anything less from this company. Don't get me wrong, but it is what it is. Um, the third one. Why are more people are not upset about the Street Profits. I feel like this is also a slap in the face too to the Street Profit because it's been 2 or 3 years since they hold a tag team title. I think the last title they hold was the SmackDown's tag team champions, and I feel like they also have about the same extent title reign that Sami Zayn had. Basically, was like a 9 to 10 day, you know, title reign, which was a slap in the face, especially if you're going to give it back to the Street Profit, yeah, not Street Profit, Division. Honestly, I hate that group. Honestly, especially because I fucking love Paul. But I digress. But what was the point in taking them off taking the title off of them, and then in order to put it back? You brought the Street Profits to Raw for order to have somebody for the Division to fight because Bobblehead JD and Dom ain't doing it. The World Raiders in Triple I, and then you have. I don't think there's no more LWO, so I can't really say for that one. But it's kind of like you don't really have anybody for them to compete with, whether it's R-Truth and Damian Priest on SmackDown, or is it Division on Raw. At some point, you forget who the fuck is tag team champions on either brand. And I feel like they either have so many tag teams in catering, or they let go of them, or they not just pushing them the way they should. Because you got quite a few NXT tag team champions or tag teams that could have went up to the main roster to fall for these belts, and yet they choose not to play around with that. I feel like, okay, if you got nobody for them to fight, bring somebody from the NXT, give them like a title shot, you know what I mean, like an open challenge, you know what I mean? See if you can knock us off. I mean, yeah, the odds of them winning will be slim or 50-50, but at least it will give the fans a taste of who these guys are based off NXT, so it can help shine a light to NXT, but also boost their younger talent up to give them a momentum to not only perform better, but also have that light where you have the potential down the line to become to the main roster. And I feel like even though most people would say that coming to the main roster is a curse in itself, because they're not going to do you water you down even more on the main roster than they do with NXT. At least with NXT, you have more freedom in some ways, and it's more fighting versus commercials and ads and promos and shit like that. Because, mind you, on a side note, on a side note, did you know in 2010, Raw has at least 6 to 9 matches in a day? Now it has 4 to 6. That is crazy work. And 90% is only four matches, and then the rest of the shit is ads. And the same thing as SmackDown. SmackDown, you had ads. Even when it's 3 hours, is ads. But at least you have more matches. I think it was like 5, maybe 6 matches during the 3 hour period. But I feel like our attention span within 3 hours get depleted, especially from 7 to not 10 o'clock. So yeah, I digress on that one. But I feel like you had this big momentum fans, but was behind the Street Profits coming back to the main roster. Even though a lot of people was kind of irritated at him, at the Street Profits, especially Montez Ford for getting Bianca pregnant, and setting her back even more. But then again, that's their life, so But I digress. But I feel like, yeah, you brought them back to order to have a new, fresh take on the tag division in order to face the division themselves, pun intended, for to give them somebody to fight. But then it's kind of like, what's the point of switching them from SmackDown to Raw if you're going to keep suppressing them? Make it make sense. Because you got the Lost Guards on fucking Triple I. And then you got the War Raiders on Triple I. And then it's like all the other... and it's crazy because they have all the other tag teams and other branches of the company, but not main where it's focused at. And don't get me started on the fucking women's tag team. I'm not even going to that. Because that's a bullshit in itself. But I digress. Um, matter of fact, let's talk on that too. I was gonna pass it up, but let's talk on it. It's ironic that you not only you got Paige, but you have Bree, one and a half of the Do Nothing Bellas, as a tag team champion. And I feel like for what for? And then I thought the whole purpose with the women's tag team belt was to have that belt to go to any brand, from SmackDown, Raw to NXT, to face the best of the women's division, tag division. Grant you, I get they don't have a tag division on NXT no more because they didn't eliminate it half, if not all, their tag team department in that females the tag team department in that situation, which I thought was crazy because I knew that was we. I guess we all kind of knew that was coming, considering that they got rid of the NXT tag team champions for the women, which is crazy. Um, but yeah, I'm like, isn't not Nikki, fuck, Brie Bella and Paige supposed to be on cross brand to order to face the best of each division in order to solidify that? But yet, you're coming out week out of week on Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown as the roll up game, the roll up pin game. You're not really doing nothing. And I get the nostalgia, and but my thing is nostalgia has this dry core. And what I mean by that is like WWE is burning on nostalgia. It's being more, it's like I get they don't focus on wrestling that much, which at this point, why even call it WWE? You should just put Raw Entertainment instead of Raw Wrestling Entertainment. Let's be honest. Uh, you're not really seeing much of wrestling. You're seeing more of ads, promos, and segments. That's really it. Um, most of the matches that are doing commercials. So let's be honest on that one. I digress. But still, I feel like should they give it to Fatal Influence? Yes. Should they allow Fatal Influence to be able to do cross brand when it comes to the tag team? Of course. I could feel like with that, it allows me to go back to NXT as well for those who choose like uh Ren St. Clair and what's her Kendall Gray to be able to challenge them at some point for the tag team titles. Even though we know they're not gonna win, but still, it's like they're able to show up, kind of like how Alexa Bliss and Charlotte did from the NXT perspective when they did it. You know what I mean? Or like uh Bianca and Naomi who did it. So it's like that be able to bounce off of each three brand in order to showcase the talent. You know what I mean? Put eyes on the talent. Um, what is the point of our truth and Damian Priest being tag team title and champions on SmackDown when you got now Damian Priest in Triple I? He's in Triple I as now as one of the competitors. I don't know to an extent because I really don't watch Triple A, but he's there. He hasn't been on SmackDown like that. I think since our truth was talking to Jacob and Jimmy backstage when he was looking for Solo because he wasn't there last week, and I feel like that's it's crazy because you have other people that are in the tag division on SmackDown that could have easily got it. Don't give us a World Raiders either because they still busy being stuck between Triple I and the main roster as well. You mean at some point I forgot they was even on the main roster. At some point in my head, I'm like, did they just get rid of them along with the releases earlier? But I digress. And then don't get me started on the tag team division because you still got fucking OTM and Hank and Saint, a good solid ass tag team in themselves, and yet they're not even in the tag. They're not even tag team. Well, they're not even tag team champion or haven't been tag team champion. And I feel like, especially OTM. And I feel like that's a slap in the face because they all been there for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And I feel like is crazy, but then I expect nothing less. Uh, so it is what it is. Well, no, um, the last one. Why does wrestling fans have a problem with Tony Khan or AEW in general? I feel like when it comes to Tony Khan, they mad at that he's a super fan. I mean, he's a fan of wrestling, meaning that he didn't come from like AKA Shane McMahon, who was Shane and Vince, who they inherited the company from their dad, that shit like that, or in Triple H case too. They didn't come from a family of wrestlers or wrestling promoters. So he's a fan who was a fan of wrestling, who like, you know what? Since I love wrestling, let me do something that's out of the ordinary, and create a wrestling company of my own, and the wrestling I want to see. Because if Tony Khan was a fan like how we're a fan, where he was watching WWE for a while, to the point where it's kind of like, man, this shit ain't what it used to be. Let me create my own shit, and then create AEW. I think fans have a problem because either one, they didn't come up with the idea to do their own brand or their own company, or two, because he don't come from a wrestling promotion legacy of having this AEW brand. He don't have a family that like the Vince McMahon or the Vince McMahon Senior or whatever, where he inherited the company from his pops. And I feel like that's a slap in the face. I feel like it takes a fan to know what a fan wants to see, if that makes sense. Because as don't get me wrong, it's okay with the nostalgia, but I'll get tired of fucking nostalgia. The nostalgia only can get you so far to the point where it's that shit dry. I don't mind seeing people flying every fucking where, uh, crashing down, setting shit on fire, landing on dumb text, getting hit with a 2x4 full of nails into the skin, shit like that. The syringe part was kind of crazy, but I digress. Like, I'm looking for good wrestling. And AEW, I feel like good AEW is that for most fans, especially if you're a fan of the Attitude Era in the ECW and WCW era, especially the ECW. And my thing is, it's kind of like AEW is that, whether you agree to disagree. I feel like AEW gives you all the above. It gives you long story, long storytelling from one company to another company, and then within the company in itself. And I feel like a lot of people so hell bent on it, against it, because they're not following it. And so when people go live or have discussion about AEW, you have those fans who are tribalists who comes a part of the panels or in the comments talking about, WWE is the top company, da 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 da. I grant you, it is currently the top of one of the top companies, but AEW is not that far. AEW did their neck and neck with the ass at this point, and I feel like a lot of people fail to realize, especially when the IWC, is the fact that WWE is not the end all be all company, meaning that there are other companies out there that you can be and be a part of to be successful. You don't necessarily have to be in WWE to order to create that. And the reason why I say that, because look at Moxley, look at people like uh Pac, formerly known as Neville. Look at Cesario, aka Claudio. Um, Look at Swerve Strickland and Tony Storm and a few other people. Mercedes Monet, aka Sasha. But still, look at them. Look how dope their fucking career is outside of WWE. If they would have stayed in WWE, their career would never be as what it is now. And I feel like WWE is like that parent where you want to take control of too much shit, instead of just letting them the creative freedom to do these characters without shutting it down or watering it down. You know what I mean? And I get that your company that's out of towards children, which I think is fucking creepy to begin with, out of to fucking children and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, and then what irritates me is that the parents of these kids are in some of the same generations that we are in when it comes to the golden era, the attitude era, the ruthless aggression era, shit like that, where you seen shit, if not some of the shit, if not most, uh, most, if not some of the shit that we currently see in AEW. And I feel like you got so used to the PG watered down version that WWE currently keep doing that's exhausting as shit, aka missionary work at this point. You get tired of that shit. And you don't want, it's like, it's okay if you're a creator who, or a content creator who keep watches it or do it just in order to have something to talk about, discussion to talk about, cool. But I feel like you're a fan and you watch the SmackDown and Raw and be like, oh, that was a good episode, or that was great, or a segment was great. And I'm looking at it and I'm watching just like you watching it. And I'm looking like, and I'm sitting here going like, what the fuck was that? And you rate that shit a 8 or a 9, or in some cases a 10 out of 10. In my head, like the fuck is how's that a 10 out of 10? Are we why not watching the same product? Because that was ass to me. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like until WWE wows the fuck out of me or give me some reason to watch me to even be like glued to my fucking TV. Yeah, it's always in the range of the most I would give you is 7. Depends on what the promo is, the segment is, or the match was. But it always is 7 or less, never higher. And I'm like, I would love to say, oh, that shit was an 8 or a 9. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And I feel like we're not getting that. We getting copy and paste ideas from other motherfuckers or other companies. They just trying to rebrand it or reissue in their own likeness in order to push it out. And it's not having the same sauce or flavor as before. It's kind of like trying to teach somebody outsider how to cook soul food, and they just rebrand it in their own version, and it doesn't taste the same. That shit tastes like ass. Try it up. I'm just being honest. And so I feel like somebody brought it to my attention too yesterday of how WWE is has copied from other companies from back then to now, and how they don't really have an original idea. They watch their competition and trying to take the idea to rebrand it in their situation or in their flavor. It's crazy. And then now it's like nothing. Soon you have another PLE where they both on the same night in order to compete for competition. And I know WWE does that shit purposely, just order to be like, let's do this shit. But my thing is, if you're just a company, instead of your ego, stroking your fucking ego, if you was an open, company that was open minded to the point where you allow your superstars to cross brand to other promotion, like how AEW was, you know what I mean, and not be so petty about trying to blacklist or uh strong venue companies to not allow the competition to host their show at a certain place, and it was more open and allowed the creative freedom, and you got rid of half of those motherfuckers that's in the background for our creative team and production, I think it would have been way better off. Get rid of all the Vince McMahonism inside that company. TKO is a UFC type of bullshit. So my thing is, if you want somebody to help make you money, or in some cases like that, when it comes to WWE, one, stay your hands off of WWE. Stick the fuck what you know. Just invest in the company, which I feel like you shouldn't have no hand in that either, in general. But two, give it all the Vince McMahon connection in that motherfucker. Give new writers, whether it's fans related who are true prone to fan of wrestling, and create dream matches by showcasing younger, newer talent, but also managing the current talent as well. So that way it helps um, showcase both of them. So that way, motherfuckers who come from NXT comes to the main roster, you ain't got the fan looking like, who the fuck is this? You know why? Because you occasionally features AEW superstar, not AEW, NXT superstars to the main roster in order to keep out on NXT, but also keep out on main roster. So you know, like, oh, that's such and such from NXT. You ain't got a motherfucker who watches NXT trying to fill you in on who the fuck that is on the main roster. And you have travelers who just only solely watch SmackDown and Raw, but never watch a fucking NXT or involved. Which is crazy, right? Because in my opinion, NXT is one of the best brand shows they have, in my opinion. But yeah, I know I've been ranting, and that's kind of my thing. But yeah, it is what it is. But I feel like I just needed to get that off my chest. But thank you for listening to this episode. You can follow me on all social media platform. On TikTok, I am Star88 with a butterfly. Same thing for my backup, which is Star88 with the two butterflies. I'm also on Instagram at Stay Beautiful 27, I believe. Um, here I'm on Twitch, but I haven't got that set up yet, so bear with me on that one. But yeah, um, until next time, see you. Thank you for listening. You know, I gotta come up with a catchphrase to end this, but it is what it is. Deuces.